morning, everybody. How are you doing? Happy Monday. So I hope everybody had a great weekend. I personally had a fantastic one. The reason for it is that I've got my two businesses. There is Tango and then there is coaching. And one of my favorite weekends is when I get to do both. So I got to do Tango on Saturday and then I got to do coaching on Sunday with a workshop. So I was in heaven. That was my thing. I'm beat. I'm tired. I'm going to take a day off sometime this week. However, that was a fantastic weekend. So I hope you had the same. And today I want to talk about tolerance. And that's a big subject, so we're going to narrow it down. What came up for me is I want to help my clients and I want to help women entrepreneurs specifically to be able to step out of self-limiting beliefs or self-limiting areas and really embrace their full potential. That being said, we have to also put boundaries in place. Because when we have boundaries, sometimes we may think, okay, if I put boundaries, we're thinking limits, and really boundaries is just an area of freedom for me. So if I know where the line is, I know how far I can go, respecting my freedom, honoring myself, at the same time honoring others, because freedom is a very tricky subject. And for me, what comes up, and that's something we've been, it's an area we've been exploring since I was a kid, because that's really important, it's really relevant. We talk about it all the time, but we really get down to the nitty-gritty and the details of it. And for me, freedom is being able to do anything we want, as long as we don't hurt ourselves or somebody else. And yes, the word hurt is, a fluid one. We could come up with different things, but that's why I love to check in. I will check in with people. I even check in with my friends. Of all people, I check in with them most. It's like, if we do that, is that going to be okay with you? Or this is an idea, how do you feel about it? And we can do that with everybody, and that helps us build an area of tolerance, a boundary, and an area of freedom, yes? So, for example, I had a conversation with somebody a couple of weeks ago, and some emails got exchanged, and the next thing I see was like an angry email in my mailbox, like, that's not going to work for me. And the reason for it is that I decided that my area of tolerance stops at anger. And the reason for it is that I grew up on that stuff. I was surrounded by it. That's something that I don't want to say the victim of, but you're a kid and you've got really angry people that take it out on you. You're sort of in that area. And when you're little, there is nothing you can do about it. I mean, you don't pick your parents, right? You don't pick the people you're going to be around. If you're at school or your relatives, you're sort of stuck. But when you're an adult, you get to choose. And you get to choose who you surround yourself with, and you also get to choose what you tolerate. So you're going to get what you tolerate. And for me, it stops at anger. So let's be very clear on one thing. I believe that all emotions are valid. I think it's completely valid to be cranky. I think it's completely valid to feel anger. Where I personally draw the line at is when we take that anger on or off someone, when we start projecting that anger on other people. And that, for me, it's anger, but it could be shame, it could be dehumanization, it could be a lot of things that are going to be disconnecting to the point of. You see what I mean? And for me, anger is if people are deregulated, and when we're angry, let's face it, angry or hungry or hangry, we don't think straight. We're not our best self. Sometimes we need to just take 5 and chill, correct? So that's where I am for my tolerance. And my invitation today is for you to figure out where is your area of tolerance. It's a little bit like doing the prep work for your connections, for your conversations, because if you know where it's at, you're ready to really give more to others. I'm really big on showing up for others, being there for themselves. I'm also very big on self-care and being there for ourselves too. So it boils down to that. If you know where your area of tolerance is at, When it happens, you'll be able to very comfortably let people know, hey, this is not going to work for me. And this is the reason why, because it's not going to work for me. And that's a little bit like going to a restaurant, and if you know me by now, it's like, I don't like broccoli. I don't like broccoli. It's just not my thing. So if I go to a restaurant and it's like, I don't like broccoli. Well, you know what? Your area of tolerance is the same than broccoli. It's, if you don't like broccoli, you don't like it. You don't have to justify yourself. This is who you are. And that's all right. There is what you like, what you don't like, what you're comfortable with, not comfortable with, what you want to surround yourself with, and what you prefer not having in your life. So when I talk about tolerance, I'm not talking about being intolerant of others. I'm talking about what you're going to tolerate within your life. So we can be tolerant and we can also be accepting. I completely accept that people are going to have a bad day, they're going to lose their temper, they're going to be angry or frustrated or annoyed. I don't tolerate them taking it out on others. And I sure as heck don't tolerate it when it's me. That's my mailbox, that's my phone, that's of course my living space, that's a lot of things like that. I'm going to put my foot down really quickly and I'm going to say, you know what, it doesn't work for me. That's just not going to work for me. I don't want that in my life. So I invite you to figure out what's your area of tolerance and what works for you, what doesn't. And also encourage you not to feel that you have to justify yourself. Because on some things we don't have to. Unless we screwed up somewhere and somebody's like, well, what happened? And then yes, maybe you can sort of figure out and feel some sort of accountability to say, yeah, that's what happened, and this is, you know, the explanation that I have for you, and I hope that works. But other than that, you are who you are, and I invite you to embrace it and not have to justify it to every Tom, Dick, and Harry and Suzette and everybody else and their mother. You don't have to. You can be yourself, and people have the option and the freedom to tolerate and accept who you are, and if they don't, you don't have to have them in your life. We have 7 billion people on the planet, and some of them are going to adore you. So I invite you to concentrate on the ones that are ready to accept you and embrace you and adore you, and the ones that don't, the ones that are going to be a challenge to your happiness, the ones that are going to belong outside your zone of tolerance. Just accept them, accept where they're at, and appreciate that they are writing their story, they are doing their own process, their own growth, and maybe one day it will change. I believe that people can change if they want to, and maybe you can have that conversation again with them another time. However, until now, what is your area of tolerance? What are you going to tolerate? What are you going to invite in your life? Because if you tolerate it, it's going to show up and it's going to be there because things and people go in. And what are you going to focus on when it comes to what is a source of happiness for you and how you're going to build your self-care, your area of freedom and your boundaries so you can be happier. At the end of the day, that's the goal. We want to be happier. We want to have more purpose and meaning in our life. And that's not going to happen if people go in there and disrupt it, okay? All right, so if you have any subject of conversation you want to talk about, please drop me a line. I'd love to touch base on it. If you need a coach and consultation, I am available, so feel free to drop me a line for that too. Visit my website. You've got a lot of resources there, as well as my YouTube channel. You have a lot of resources there that you can touch base, and a lot of it is completely free. So please do take advantage of it. It was my pleasure to put it together. So go for it and enjoy it. And until next week, reach for the greatest version of yourself. You can do it. Bye-bye.